Right there, I saw a little. He's rearranging.
Confronted giants, technicians, fighters, and counterpunchers. He has competed in 8 divisions over the course of 40 years against legends, champions, and killers with nothing to lose, but only a select few men ever forced Manny Pacquiao to reevaluate and acknowledge that the guy made it difficult not just to win, but also difficult to breathe, think, and continue being Manny Pacquiao, because when your entire style is forward motion and you are built on speed and violence, there is nothing more dangerous than a fighter who makes you hesitate, makes you miss, and makes you wonder if you still have it. These are the men who created his list. They have no ego, no excuses, just pure respect shaped in pain. They are the ones who didn't just hit hard, but hit back with purpose. You won't look at Pacquiao's highlight video the same way after hearing who made the cut, which he describes as the hardest of his career, when Manny Pacquiao discusses boxing in.
Dumb to me. I don't understand that.
His father told him, don't do anything stupid. Please be cautious. He switched southpaw and got hit by a massive...
He doesn't sound like a retired legend polishing trophies. Rather, he sounds like a student who never stopped learning the sport. Every opponent wasn't just a threat. Some taught him timing, others patience, and some made him change tactics in the middle of a fight or risk being left behind. In his words, you hear something uncommon in a sport that is based on bravado and honesty, because greatness isn't just measured by the number of belts you collect. It's revealed by the men who made you second-guess yourself or go deeper than you ever intended to, which is why this list is important. This is about who tested Manny Pacquiao when it counted, who stood across from him and refused to fold, who broke the rhythm, and who made him work for every inch. If you believe that this list is made up only of knockouts and clean wins, you're mistaken. It's not based on hype or record sales, nor is it about who sold the most pay-per-views or who had the most eye-catching name on the poster. Real fighters remember the hard ones, the ones that almost broke them but somehow didn't. It begins with a man who didn't just beat Pacquiao but broke the streak in 2005. Manny was riding high, fast-feared, and fresh off explosive wins that had fans calling him the sport's future. But even after being exposed by some of his toughest opponents, he still credits them with helping him get better. No trash talk, no drama, just a masterclass in control Morales. Instead of trying to match Pacquiao's speed, he disrupted it. He didn't drag him into a firefight. He set the pace, and in 12 brutal rounds, he gave Pacquiao something he hadn't felt in a long time. Frustration that loss hurt, not because he was knocked out, but because he got outthought. In the post-fight interviews, Morales didn't just land shots. He also landed doubt, which caused Pacquiao to question his timing, footwork, and instincts. When Pacquiao returned and eventually defeated Morales in their rematches, Manny didn't blame the gloves, the camp, or the cut above his eye. Instead, he blamed himself. That first loss never left his mind because it wasn't just a defeat. It was a recalibration, a turning point, a reminder that no matter how explosive you are, there's always someone who can make you hesitate, and Erik Morales was that man. However, if Morales was the one who stopped the momentum, Manny never had a clean conclusion in their battle, which lasted 4 bouts and 4 chapters, thanks to one Manuel Marquez. In addition to being tough, Marquez was unrelenting in his intellect, causing other competitors to falter under Pacquiao's speed. Pacquiao has acknowledged that Marquez not only survived the storm but also timed it by standing his ground, reading every angle, and countering with sniper-like accuracy. In doing so, he transformed every exchange into a mental chess match. Marquez was a nightmare because he understood Pacquiao's rhythm better than anybody else, even if he wasn't the quickest or strongest. Every time Manny believed he had the advantage, he discovered the crack. The rivalry between Marquez and Manny was founded on pain rather than hate, and in their 4th fight, the pain turned into a literal one right hand, one perfectly timed counter, and one moment that left Pacquiao flat on the canvas face first. The crowd was stunned and silent, but perhaps even in that defeat, Pacquiao's respect for Marquez grew because Marquez never blinked, never gave in, and never gave him the last word. Of all the men Manny ever faced, it was Marquez who stayed closest, not in style, but always ready, always improving him.
Problematic when he can slow you down to his pace. There's no way in the world you're going to beat him. I don't get the fight.
He didn't just remember the punches, he remembered the silence between them, the hesitation, the rare feeling of being read mid-motion, like Marquez could see the strike before it left his glove. It wasn't luck, it was study. Then there was Floyd Mayweather Jr., the biggest fight of Pacquiao's career, and the most frustrating night of it. It wasn't a war, it wasn't a brawl, it was a puzzle, and Pacquiao couldn't solve it for 12 rounds he chased. Shadows swung at air, landed just enough to stay dangerous, but never enough to break through. Mayweather didn't outpunch him, he outmaneuvered him. He neutralized every angle, smothered every flurry, and turned Pacquiao's aggression into missed opportunities. And that's what made it so hard to swallow, because Manny wasn't outclassed physically, he was outtimed. He came in confident, prepared, convinced that his speed and experience would be enough. But Floyd didn't fight for excitement, he fought for control every time. Pacquiao stepped forward, Mayweather forced him to retry, and when Pacquiao disclosed a shoulder problem, everyone argued possible explanations, but the reality is that even at full strength, Mayweather's fashion sense would have been a constant source of anxiety. Pacquiao later referred to Floyd as smart, not in a flattering manner, but in the way fighters say that when they realized they couldn't beat him. He didn't hate him, he just couldn't hit him. In that type of fight, every second counts, and you start to overthink, lunge, miss, and then all of a sudden it's not a battle but a clinic, and you're the target for Pacquiao, a man whose career was built on explosive moments and highlight knockouts that left a scar deeper than most punches could ever. Floyd Mayweather was regarded by Pacquiao as one of the hardest because he defeated Manny not with strength but with distance, time, and accuracy.
That many jabs. He doesn't jab as much as people think.
This wasn't a chess match. Rather, it was a war of attrition, of heart over who could take more and still go on, and for the first few rounds of their 2009 bout, it wasn't clear who that would be. Then came Miguel Cotto, a fighter who frustrated Pacquiao with sheer force rather than tricks or counters. It wasn't easy. Despite the TKO victory, Manny never downplayed what Cotto brought to the ring. He called him one of the strongest opponents he had ever faced, both physically and emotionally, because Cotto didn't just try to win. He tried to stand taller longer. He fought like a man defending something more than a belt, and that spirit, that refusal to fall, easily stayed with Pacquiao long after the final bell. Cotto came in strong, focused, and he landed heavy blows to the body, pushed Pacquiao backward, and refused to let the pace go out of control.
Body shots absorbed nicely. Pacquiao.
It's a guy who has been shaken in fights. He has been knocked down, like by Ricardo. If the fight goes the distance, it'll be interesting to see how they scored that one.
And then there was Antonio Margarito, a man so much bigger than Pacquiao. The weigh-in alone felt like a mismatch. On fight night, Margarito stepped into the ring nearly 17 pounds heavier, towering over Manny with a granite chin and a reputation for brutality. But what made him one of Pacquiao's toughest opponents wasn't just size, it was the fact that no matter how many punches landed, how many clean, violent, whip-fast combinations Manny threw, Margarito just kept coming. Pacquiao hit him with everything. Speed, angles, volume. He landed over 400 punches that night, and yet Margarito didn't fold. His face swelled, his eyes shattered, his orbital bone broke. But the man kept throwing, kept walking forward, kept trying to trap a ghost. And for all of Manny's dominance in that fight, his footwork, his accuracy, his brilliance, there were moments in the middle rounds where he looked over at Margarito as if to ask, "Why won't you stay down?" Later, Pacquiao said that was the only opponent he felt sorry for throughout the bout.
That one punch got Pacquiao's attention.
Oh, and that's a big left hand by Pacquiao.
And now Pacquiao fighting off the ropes and kind of getting things back to where they were.
Listen to the crowd as the bell sounds.
In the end, Manny Pacquiao evaluated his hardest opponents according to how deeply they affected his morale, strained his thinking, and plagued his rhythm, rather than by titles, money, or media attention. Mayweather outwitted him in time. Margarito challenged his humanity, while Cotto tried his endurance. Each of them contributed in their own unique manner to Pacquiao's legacy, not just wounds but also improvements that honed his instincts, fortified his spirit, caused him to doubt his knowledge, and ultimately led him to go beyond it. Casual viewers don't often witness the process, but they do see the highlight clips, the quick hands, and the knockouts. The quiet fights that take place behind the scenes. the mental rewiring after a difficult night, and the introspection that only occurs when someone makes you feel mortal in the ring are examples of how Manny's toughest opponents weren't just the ones who scored the most shots. They were also the ones who changed him, improved him, and left something behind that couldn't be measured by the scorecards. In every interview and quiet post-fight moment that demonstrates humility, he thanks resistance because Pacquiao didn't become a legend simply by winning. He became one by surviving the nights he almost didn't, and he never forgot who gave him those nights.
I won the fight, but I can say that that's easy. This fight is hard. I think everybody, all the people who came here and wanted.
Therefore, when Manny Pacquiao names his toughest opponents, he's not just giving out compliments. He's paying tribute to the wars that shaped him. These were the men who stood in the face of a storm and didn't back down. They were the ones who made him miss and made him bleed, and for a brief moment, Pacquiao wondered if he was going to lose. Pacquiao found something he never could in victory alone: clarity about his limits and will about what it really takes to be great when everything seems to be falling apart, because greatness isn't defined by dominance but rather by resistance, and his story isn't one of easy victories, but rather one of adapting to being dropped, having doubts, and deciding to fight smarter, harder, and having deeper. Morales forced him to rethink. Mayweather forced him to go to Cotto and suffer. These names continue to surface when he reflects because they didn't just test him. They also revealed him and the fighter we all remember that was forged in those moments. Margarito made him feel that way, and each of them in their own unique way helped him create the most unpredictable and unforgettable legacy in boxing. You don't become a fighter like Manny by avoiding difficult nights. You become one by surviving them.
110. Judges Bert Clements and Glenn Feldman both scored about the same, 116 to 100.
Put it in the comment section. Click subscribe because at Knockout, we go beyond simply recounting fight stories. We also explore what made legends bleed, sweat, and grow, because behind every highlight, there is a difficult round, and behind every cheer from the crowd, there is a moment of uncertainty and agony over choosing to keep going. Pacquiao didn't rise because no one forced him to. Rather, he rose because they did it repeatedly, and each time they attempted to break him, they succeeded in creating something bigger, which is what distinguishes champions from icons. Pacquiao provided us with decades of excellence.